Tomorrow night, Treasurer Wayne Swan begins his quest for the Holy Grail, a budget process designed to move the economy from a deficit situation to a surplus. The task has been made more difficult by the recent floods and a less profitable business sector. It means this year's deficit will be higher than earlier forecast as the government pins its hopes on the mining boom to dig it out of its budgetary hole. Here's Philip Lasker.
I call the Treasurer.
Come budget night, Australians will learn that relative immunity from the global financial crisis doesn't guarantee immunity from tough budgets.
They will still have to make cuts, and we haven't really seen significant cuts made in budgets since 1996-97 with that first Howard Costello budget. So from that perspective, it will be a tough budget, but it won't be as tough as I expected it may have been only a few days ago.
That's because policymakers like the Reserve Bank have raised their growth forecasts, and that takes some pressure off the government's quest for a surplus. But the numbers look uglier right now, with the deficit worse than forecast a few months ago by around $10 billion, from more than $41 billion to over $50 billion since the government delivered its mid-year economic and fiscal outlook in November. Revenues are expected to be $9 billion less, while spending could be down by $3 billion after the flood rebuilding effort.
Outside of mining, the economy is struggling a bit. And when you put that together with carry forward losses that will be continuing through the GFC and the fact that the miners are investing a lot, which means they'll get a lot of depreciation allowance, I think the start point for the deficit is probably worse than what a lot of people think, and somewhere around $55 billion.
Today's National Australia Bank Business Survey underlined the softness in the business sector outside mining, with conditions deteriorating slightly last month. It showed the high Australian dollar beginning to erode sentiment.
It's certainly true that there are some sectors that are very, very fragile. Our sort of net reading on the retail sector is as bad as the GFC, and particularly in discretionary retail, because what's happening there is essentially that people are still nervous and scared. Small
business is feeling much of that consumer fear, and the sector experts aren't expecting much from this budget outside a new $5,000 tax deduction for business vehicles.
What you can see is that the government is going to make it a little bit tougher for people that are salary sacrificing their cars. But to soften that up, what they've offered is this countervailing measure, which is that $5,000 write-off for small businesses when they purchase a new car, which we think is good.
Also softening the blow of a mining boom predicted to stretch the economy is a program aimed at attracting permanent skilled migrants to regional areas.
There are certain shortages, it's okay. I would like to see the companies, the corporations spend much more on training Australian workers. There are unemployed young people who are looking for jobs. It would be good if they could train them up as apprentices to work in such areas. However, it is always difficult for people to move to very small places out in Northern Territory or Queensland. So I think this is one way of tying people down to go and work there for at least 2 years.
But overall, Wayne Swan will be hoping a pickup in growth after the floods and financial crisis will do most of the heavy lifting.